Hi, my name is Vanessa Lech, and today's video is obviously going to be a live stream. This is informal. I have no makeup on. Just as I said I was going to do, promised, in my preview of the series that I'm doing about the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs regarding my thoughts and my experiences, past, present, and in real time. And this is going to be like a combo type video. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, this is me, the first LinkedIn live I've ever done. LinkedIn just approved this. I actually forgot they approved it on my profile. I actually need to get it set up for my other profiles I have for Hello Vanessa Media, as well as another profile I have for my other company, Caroline Dictionary Management. Anyways, but this is pertaining to like my media work is what this is pertaining to. So if you're on YouTube, check it out, subscribe, like if you like, feel free to share with whoever you want. I don't care. And you can also see a stockpile of my videos there about this related topics that I'm doing in this series. And I also have a podcast, Hello Vanessa Media. It's everything. My name, Vanessa Lech. You can find that literally any single place that you've ever listened to a podcast or would ever want to listen to a podcast. It's there. It is everywhere. I have wide distribution. A couple announcements I just want to make real quick. I mean, obviously, this is not all my fancy video equipment. I don't have my 4K recording video here. I'm using my laptop. I'm not using a fancy microphone, so there may be audio issues. And I've got dogs, my dogs walking kind of around the background because they're just all excited, like, what is going on? But update I want to give you guys is that tomorrow it is planned that I'm going to be on the Combat Citizen podcast. I am not a combat veteran, just to be clear. I'm a military veteran, not a combat military veteran. There's a distinction there, okay? But anyways, Ryan is his name. He's actually on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn right now on the platform watching this, you can actually check out his LinkedIn page. He has a LinkedIn profile, not any company pages I'm aware of, but LinkedIn profile. And I will actually, if this posts successfully on LinkedIn, I will actually link him, mention him if possible in that. I'm not sure. All these platforms have all these different rules. And so I was on my social media schedule yesterday and I noticed that I was unable to link to him when I was promoting one of his podcast episodes from a while back. So we'll see kind of how that goes, or if that goes exactly. All right. So this part of my ongoing series, I'm going to do a live demonstration, which is something my phone is messing up while I'm looking at over here. A live demonstration, which I'm doing is routine part of trying to demonstrate to the public veterans experiences with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, specifically this veterans experience. I'm not trying to talk for anyone else, okay? But what I'm experiencing, many people are experiencing as well. I'm not the only one. And so I'm going to be making a phone call at the end of this so you can see the overly complicated VA menu to try to even reach my local clinic. And the people at my local clinic are fantastic. They've been nothing but nice to me, nothing but professional. I've got nothing but good things to say about them and their clinic that they work at, okay, just as a whole. So it's not a hit on them. It's just a hit on the fact that the menu is horrible. They have nothing to do with that. That's VA management once again. And I've extensively researched this topic, which I'll tell you more about my findings about that later on in this video. But anyways, I want to get back to what really motivated me to get back into really advocacy work with regard to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and military community. So many years ago, I was a whistleblower at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs as an employee. I was retaliated against. It just turned my life totally upside down. And there's many people, countless people, whose stories will never be heard, whose faces will never be seen. And every single person like me who speaks up and who speaks out and does it bravely and courageously and won't stop is a step in the right direction. The reason we have legislation like the VA Mission Act of 2018 and the Deborah Sampson Act that was just recently passed in the last few months is because people spoke out and we're not going to back down, and they were able to get change made. And I admire and respect those people hugely. But all of us that have our stakeholders and that have inside information have to really be willing to advocate for change to make the changes happen. Because I tell you right now, these VA managers and executives, most of them aren't going to be the ones to do it. They're doubling down that status quo, just like I said many years ago. And that's why I'm doing this. Okay, so what recently motivated me to get back out there and do advocacy work was my referral. My medical referral was denied by a U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs manager for sure. I know that at the Alexandria, Louisiana Veterans Affairs Medical Center, there were allegedly 2 people that denied it. I don't know who the second one was, but I know one of them was a manager. That is what was confirmed to me through a couple of different workers inside the facility. And so that happened. And I legally had a right, according to the VA Mission Act 2018, for that referral, because I actually did a video about this. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out and look at it. I went really deep into that the day it happened in real time. So currently, as it stands, I suspect that I'm being ignored by VA management, who made this decision. That's what I suspect. I found out about the denial Friday. It had occurred 2 days prior to that. To my understanding was what I was told. And today is now Tuesday, March 30th at 3:02 p.m. Central Standard Time. And to the best of my knowledge, my referral is still denied. And the decision makers who have made this decision have not reached out to reverse their decision or anything. Basically, this is something I actually need to talk about too, because some people that don't know anything about the VA and never have worked there and are not in the know will not understand why would they do that. What's the deal? Like why? That's a long story. Okay, so when I worked at the VA, I learned about these things called performance measures. Performance measures, basically, the simplest way I can define it, are numbers that Congress has set out for VA management to hit. Once they hit that number, historically, they would get a bonus for that hitting that measure. Okay. Why does that matter? Because in my experience, basically, managers and executives inside the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, I've seen this firsthand, are willing to go to extraordinary lengths to get that bonus money. You would be amazed. This has actually been covered widely in the news about what extremes they'll go to hit numbers or to make it look like they've hit certain performance measures to get bonus money. Now, I am assuming that they are still have performance measures from Congress and that they still are getting bonus money, that those bonuses, the dollar amount is attached to the performance measures. Okay. So let me give you some examples of what a performance measure is and what it would look like and why that matters. Okay. So I'm just making up numbers here, just making up numbers. So let's say that you need to get 200 qualified military veterans into a homeless veteran housing program in order to receive, once you hit that number, you will receive $1,000 bonus. Okay, so now on paper, it appears that you just hit the performance measure, 200 veterans, military qualified veterans, and the homeless program, and now you receive your $1,000 bonus. All right, hugely motivating for these managers. You would be amazed. Okay, and there's certain people throughout the organization that are qualified for bonuses. Basically, it is just like it's really bad. It really leads to a lot of corruption, like you don't even understand. And so I don't know if they're still getting bonuses through the organization. I'm probably going to research this because I'm going to be researching everything as I do this series, my own experiences, but also because I'm like asking myself a lot of questions about this now. So I'm going to research this. And if you have information, feel free to drop a comment. No, it's public though. You can leave a message for the podcast. You may or may not be featured, but it is all public. Okay. Okay, another example of a bonus measure would be, say, you need to get 100 qualified female military veterans to see the through the clinic for a well woman exams. Okay, so like an initial preventative health care examination. Once you hit that measure, you get $1,000 bonus. Okay, so you can imagine, as I'm giving you these examples, the motivation that could come from basically like wanting to hit these measures. Like what just think in your mind, like what would it take? What would people be willing to do to hit those numbers potentially to get that money? In my experience working at the VA, it's astounding. You don't want to know. Okay. And this has been widely covered in the news. So basically the motivation for denying my referral, I firmly believe, and I covered this in the video I did about this, which I published on last Friday when I found out the referral had been denied. The reason to take away my informed consent, basically, and try to pick my provider for me, which is exactly what was being done, I was told last Friday, is that, and those are my words, by the way, not theirs, but that's what's being done. Like that what was explained to me is what's being done. Like I'm not being allowed to make my own decision. My provider is being assigned to me type thing. My options are being restricted, which is not legal. And I'm not allowed to basically make decisions about my best interest in my medical care because I've got VA managers who are now interfering with that right, with that legal right, as outlined by the VA Mission Act of 2018. Okay. And so why would they be willing and motivated to do that? And I don't think I'm the only one. Well, I believe that the reason is because of performance measures. I'm a covered qualified veteran, legal lingo. Okay. In the VA Mission Act, they use the word covered a lot. I'm a covered veteran. All right. So when you're a covered veteran, when you're an eligible qualified veteran, military veteran, a number goes up on your head, essentially, in the VA manager's minds. A number goes up on your head. That's what they see. They see a number on top of your head. And then they're like, that number, if we can assign that number to this program, then we're going to be closer to hitting that performance measure because that person falls into these demographics. And that's one more number towards hitting a performance measure, which will get me my bonus money. So that's why I believe that there is a motivation to basically force me, this veteran, I doubt I'm the only one, into program services or whatever that I'm not interested in when I'm trying to get medical care outside of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Medical Center. Okay. That's the reason why. That's motivation. And basically, this choice thing, and I covered this in my video, the VA Mission Act 2018, regarding my own situation, it makes these managers and a lot of these people that work at the VA very nervous. Why does it make them nervous? It makes them nervous because now they could end up being in a future situation where they could be laid off because veterans now are empowered to vote with their feet and be empowered about their healthcare choices. They could be in a situation now where they are basically, maybe closing a facility because that facility is no longer needed and the veterans have found better options out in the community. They may be in a situation where they're learning to lay off staff, or they're getting maybe their paychecks cut or something because their services are no longer needed. Maybe their hours are cut back. Okay, I covered this once again. I'm going to try to link this the video I did maybe at a later time because I've got to get going today. I've got other things I've got to take care of. But I'm gonna link the video I did on this because I don't want to be real repetitive and keep repeating myself over and over again, especially for people following the podcast and following the videos. But basically, I did a video on this, so check that out. But my attitude is veterans should always have the right to choose about when, where, who provides their health care. Should always have the right of informed consent. And legally, that right should always be protected, preserved, and military veterans should always be empowered to make those decisions that are eligible for these healthcare services and whatever the case benefits. Okay. And my direct experience is that right is not being preserved because my medical referral was denied. So I don't have to speculate and say like, oh, well, this may be happening. I know it's happening because it happened to me as recently as last Friday. I found out it had been denied according to what they told me 2 days earlier. Okay. So I know this is happening. I don't think I'm the only one. That's speculation. But the first part about my referral, that's not speculation. Okay. So I'm using this opportunity of my referral being denied as basically a platform to step on and to really educate the public about what it's like to deal with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. And this is one of countless topics I'm covering. Okay, so the next topic I want to cover is basically about my visit to the Alexandria, Louisiana Veterans Affairs Medical Center yesterday. I went there for a routine healthcare appointment. And actually, I have a lot of positive things to say because I'm going to be fair. I'm not going to be a toxic person. Yes, I am dealing with a toxic organization called the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, but I will not be a toxic person. I'm going to be fair. I'm going to reveal the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what I'm going to do. So yesterday I went there with my husband. He drove me there. We pulled up on the campus and it was actually very beautiful. It was very well landscaped. The trees looked like they'd been there since the place was originally built. I was speculating, my husband and I were debating, whether it was built in the 1930s or 50s or maybe a new building. It's made to look old because of the architecture. The architectural style, I suspected was the 30s style. I was right. I went on their website, which I may try to show you here in a second, but it's a little tricky sharing my screen because I've got another screen share I'm about to show here in a minute. And it was built in 1929, according to the website. And that actually is going to bring me to my next point I'm going to get to here in a minute, but hold on. Okay. So anyways, it was very well maintained. It was clean. It smelled clean. One of the hallways I was in was buffed and shined. It was like you could see a reflection in it almost. I interacted with probably a dozen different employees just in passing, some of them. They're all professional as far as I'm concerned. I actually exceeded my standards as far as my expectations because the equipment that was used in my visit was actually better than what I thought it was going to be. I have very low expectations of the VA, to say the least. there was one negative thing we'll say is there was a miscommunication between staff that required me to, it was a minor, resulted in a minor inconvenience for me and required me to stay longer and do something else, another thing, which I'm not gonna go into what it was, that I shouldn't have had to do. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because I'm going to use this as a point to talk about the inefficiencies of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Okay, so just in the last 13 months, there's been at least 2 times, possibly more, I can't even remember, no, wait, 3 times, okay, in the past 13 months that I can recall, where there was poor communication internally within the staff of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. In different, the VA is huge, by the way, so I'm not going to get into what sections, but in different sections, okay? And that lack of communication, that miscommunication, and their systems failing to communicate properly with each other as well as their people resulted in basically unnecessary delays, inconveniences, unnecessary appointment that occurred, unnecessary other medical stuff situation that shouldn't have occurred. And I mention this because this inefficiency costs more money that's not needed, okay, because they're being inefficient. Cost taxpayers more money. And then when they frequently will look at the VA, like, how can we cut benefits like disability compensation benefits from military veterans that are disabled, to have disabilities or something? And it's like, why don't we look at how to go ahead and make the VA more efficient, make them communicate with each other? How about we look at turning the civil service system into an at-will employment system to make it more efficient, to make it to where it's more affordable for taxpayers, and we can actually have the best, most talented people instead of these people that stay here for 30 years and suck us dry with taxpayer money? How about we try that? How about we do that? But that's never the answer. So yesterday's miscommunication between the staff that resulted in me having to do another medical, I'll just call it a procedure. I don't even know what to even describe it, because I'm trying to be vague here because I'm not going to give out all my freaking medical info. But another procedure that was unnecessary, that cost more money, that cost me more time, that cost staff more time, that cost more money of the U.S. taxpayers. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because these inefficiencies are widespread. I've had 3 of them that I can identify off the top of my head in the past 13 months in different areas, not just medical. And, they need to become more efficient and they need to figure this out. And my suggestions, if the VA management executives will watch my videos, would be a great starting point, and the politicians would be a great starting point. But the problem is these issues are very divisive and polarizing political type issues, and they don't want to make the necessary changes because they rather have their propaganda, the VA, the politicians, and get their votes than do what's right for the American taxpayers and the military community. And bam, that's it. That's the truth. All right. So, oh, and funny thing about my appointment yesterday. So on my way out the door, I saw a big sign, which is typical in these big VA facilities, even though I haven't frequented them in many years. To give you some perspective, this is the first time I went to a supersize, I call it the big VA, which is basically, it's a hospital. It's a big VA hospital facility, and it's typically going to have one in each city of the US is what I've observed. And they're going to be like the parent of the smaller spin-off clinics that you'll have in the communities. Okay. So anyways, first time I've been in a big VA in about 5 or 6 years. So let's give you some perspective. So there was a sign on the wall, which is typical. It hasn't changed in all these years. And it says basically some blah, blah, blah information. It's like nothing exciting. Okay. But I spotted a typo in it. I actually thought that was really funny. And I just thought, attention to detail, not the VA strong suit as usual. And this is another way I can illustrate that very valid point. Okay. And it's a typo. And I just thought to myself, they clearly didn't proofread this, and they should have had like not one person, not 2 people, but maybe like 5 people proofread this for typos. All right, let me just add it. All right, so it says, this is an excerpt, this isn't the whole thing. Choice for our veterans. We want your issues resolved at the lowest level. If you experience any concerns during your visit, supervise or available, like not available. They left out the B right here. You could see it right here. They left out the B. So available to assist you. Patient advocates are available should further assistance, blah, blah. Anyway, so they basically have a typo on their available word. And I just want to point that out because I find it really humorous. And it just shows this lack of attention to detail at the VA that they really need to work on. And as far as their patient advocates, I'm going to tell you right now, I've had direct dealings with the patient advocates in more than one location, but specifically the patient advocates, I'm just going to say the patient advocates I've had direct dealings with at the Alexandria, Louisiana Veterans Affairs Medical Center. I've had issues in the past getting a hold of people. I've gotten the runaround. People have not gotten back to me from that office. And I will be fair. Look, they're probably bogged down with more complaints than you can possibly imagine. And I get that. Like, I worked at the VA. It was a nightmare, but I will tell you, I always got back to every single person, and I was being retaliated against. So I had to deal with the part-time job, which became like a full-time job, of being terrorized in my workplace and harassed in all ways possible, and having my life put in danger because I reported misconduct, okay, in management. And I was getting back to people and doing my job full-time. So, like, I don't really think there's really an excuse, but I will give people benefit of the doubt and be like, hey, you know what? I know it's tough working at the VA. I know there's a lot of angry people, rightfully so. You're probably really busy, but still, that if like they need to be more efficient with their systems, basically. Because I look at like the non-governmental systems and companies, and then they don't have any choice but to be efficient, find ways to overcome problems, solve problems, and deliver whatever the service, product, or good is to the customer, the end user, basically. And the VA, I don't see that as much. I don't see that because the system is set up in a way where that's just not required. It's just not. And in the laws, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I've never been to law school, but I do want to go to law school. And that decision was inspired by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. But basically, I was told by one of my fellow veterans who is super up on everything legal, and they're not a lawyer either, that they actually tried to sue the VA. And they were telling me that they weren't successful because of a law that's on the books, which I have not had a chance to study. I plan on looking at it. And basically, the bottom line is the laws like VA Admission Act of 2018 and the Deborah Sampson Act, my understanding is like military veterans and the people that are affected by that are not able to enforce those laws, is my understanding. Okay. Now, I could be wrong, but if I'm wrong, can some lawyer freaking tell me in the response here? That would be fantastic, because I would really like to know more about that. I mean, if I could legally enforce my rights to access healthcare, as outlined in the VA Act 2018 and these other, like the Deborah Sampson Act, I would be on that like pronto. But basically, there appears to be a lack of options legally for military veterans and people who these laws affect. And so my understanding is, even though they have to report back to the Congress that's micromanaging them, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, they at the same time are never really truly accountable. So they can blow things off. So for example, I think I mentioned this in one of my other videos, but it's really on my radar. I did a video about the Deborah Sampson Act and kind of my initial thoughts on it, because it's a law that affects me and many other people, many other women veterans. And because it's all about military female veterans, just to be clear. That's why I specify that. And basically, I found out last week that there's only one peer support specialist, is what I was told by a chief. I'm not going to specify which one. There's a lot of chiefs over at these different VAs, but the Alexandria, Louisiana Veterans Affairs Medical Center, there's only one peer support specialist. Now, for those of you who don't know what peer support specialist is, it's basically someone who is a peer that's to provide support, specializes in that area. Frequently, they're utilized in the mental health service line, and they may be helping escort veterans with appointments or coming out to visit with them in their communities or homes or some community center. They could be organizing some kind of group at the clinic or at the facility, online or offline, although the VA is not up with technology. I can tell you that much right now. They could be providing some kind of one-on-one support service, communicating with the veteran. That's something that they could be doing. Well, the Deborah Sampson Act, they're supposed to have more peer support specialists, and specifically ones that are female, for the female military veterans. Well, not only do they not have that, is my understanding, based upon what I was told last week at the Alexandria, Louisiana Veterans Affairs Medical Center, they also only have one peer support specialist for the entire facility. My understanding is that person is in vocational rehab, and that's their job. And so I adamantly oppose this. I am really in favor of basically let's lay off a high-paid executive manager person, okay? And let's go ahead and reappropriate that salary and those benefits to hire those peer support specialists. And then we can start competing as an organization, so to speak, with the same level of services that these tech apps are providing. And we can go ahead and provide online group counseling, which is being provided by certain apps, which when I say counseling, I mean like mental health coaching, peer support services, that type of thing. I'm using the counseling word very loosely because I understand licensed providers have to provide those services. Anyways, but that's not being done, and it's not a priority. Also, I mentioned this in my other video, retreats for military female veterans that are supposed to be organized according to the act do not appear to be a priority. COVID-19 is currently being used as an excuse for that. However, I researched these retreats from female military veterans, and they're actually being done out in the open air. Historically, people live in separate quarters, not in barracks. And many states now are opening up for business. Restrictions are being lifted in many states. And so this goes back to the VA, in my opinion, appears to be working hard to find ways to not do their job and to not serve military veterans' best interests. And these executives and chiefs and managers and whatever they freaking call themselves, there's so many of them at the VA, I believe are firmly working to serve themselves and not the military community. And the research I've done and my direct experiences in recent days and weeks and months definitely are supporting that. That thought, the theory, the belief system, and I believe it to be very true. Okay, so let's see what else I want to show you guys. Oh, I wanted to show you, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to go to this website where I wanted to show how outdated the websites really are. It was the website I'm about to show you was last updated June 9th of 2015. And this is a chronic problem that I've identified throughout the VA. Now, look, I know how to do web design. I'm very up with technology. So like I know as a fact that there's absolutely no reason why someone can't just pop in there that knows that's competent with technology and go ahead and start and start updating these websites. It doesn't take much to do, but it shows at the bottom of the VA, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs webpage is when it was last updated. And you would be amazed if you start researching this topic of how out of date these websites really are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add this into the stream. All right, so this is the, let me try to scroll around so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so this is the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Alexandria VA Healthcare System page, okay? I care. Yeah, I always find that comical right here because really, truly, this is propaganda. This is propaganda. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, let's scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Wait. Let's see, I think I want to show you something here about the facility that I was talking about. No. Okay, it must be further down. Anyways, there's information about the facility I went to yesterday that was interesting, but it's extremely out of date, most likely because they refuse to update their web pages and stay on top of that. Okay, there it is. So anyways, it says 1929 vintage structure. That's what it says. So I'm assuming that the building I was in, I'm guessing, I could be wrong here. I'm thinking it was built in 1929. And then it goes on to say that it's significant structural, mechanical, environmental problems, blah, 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 blah. But you have to keep in mind, I was in the building, it looked fine to me. And you have to keep in mind when it was last updated, this webpage. So according to this webpage, it was last updated, which you can't even see that because of my overlay. Hold on, let me take my little overlay off real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, there we go. All right, so as you can see right here, June 9th of 2015 is when this was last updated, this web page. So that like it is March 30th of 2021. Just to give you some perspective there. It is June 9th. I mean, it's March 30th, 2021. And this webpage was last updated June 9th of 2015. So I just want to give you some perspective there about that. Now, okay, so this information that's on here, I mean, I would not be surprised if, and I think it's highly likely that this information is outdated, where they're talking about the structural stuff, because at the end of the day, they've likely made significant updates. So anyways, but this just goes back to my initial point about how these websites, I go on them in different areas of the VA, not just the VHA, which is the Veterans Health Administration, but different, like the VBA is the Veterans Benefits Administration. And I've been on multiple web pages through the VA now, and they're outdated, a good many of them that I go on. And so if I'm finding them randomly, all these outdated websites that are outdated for years now that have totally inaccurate information, then it's likely a problem throughout the whole system. I've reported this problem, just in case you're wondering, to my favorite phone number, White House Hotline, Veterans Experience Office, VEO. I should probably make a little banner about that so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because I know I talk fast. But anyways, I did report it. It has not been resolved. And there was another website, for example, a webpage where I had a list of fax numbers. I later found out that the webpage, because it hadn't been updated since 2019, that the fax numbers were not, they were out of date. They weren't supposed to be used anymore because nobody was checking the fax machine because people were working remotely due to COVID-19. So that's like another example of why it's important to update your web pages. But the VA, once again, not being held accountable, doesn't feel the need to do that. All right, so today's gonna be another demonstration. Now, I'll cover quite a lot of material. I'm gonna cover more in the near future here with more demonstrations and stuff. But right now I'm going to call my local clinic. I may mute myself to try to preserve some privacy, but it's probably going to say the name of the location of the clinic where I go to. I don't really go there physically much, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, you know, if someone tries to stalk me. But I will say that this clinic, if it says the name, I want to make it very clear that the people that work there have been nothing but nice to me and professional. And they're doing a good job, in my view, from my experience, observations of them. The facility is very clean and well maintained, and I actually put in a good word for them at the VA White House Hotline Veterans Experience Office, VEO, because, you know, it's like you've really got to highlight when there's like like good people doing good work anywhere in the VA because it's not really the most common. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and call, and I'm gonna put this on the speakerphone, and the menu may hang up on me. This is common, and that's going to further illustrate my point. Typically, I get disconnected from the menu twice. The clinic I go to, they don't have control over the menu design. They do not. It's designed, my understanding, I've researched this and talked to the people in the VA system, like the White House Hotline people, the Veterans Experience Office, VEO people. The hotline's designed by management and the national level of Veterans Affairs, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. And so when you see these issues with these menus, these phone menus being horrible, it's because of that. It's not because the people work at the clinic, because this is not a small business. They basically have no control over these things, which is sad. If they don't answer the phone frequently, they will they will typically route you to, in my experience, the Alexandria, Louisiana Veterans Affairs call center is my understanding, and that's the way they do it. That happened to me a couple of times when the clinic wasn't able to pick up, which is pretty rare, but I guess it's a way of covering the phones. Okay, so this is the menu. It sucks.
For pharmacy, press 2. To make, change, or cancel an appointment, or to relay a message to your provider, press 3. To apply or determine your eligibility for healthcare, press 4. To use the automated appointment system, press 1. To make an appointment or relay a message to your provider, press 2. To speak to someone in mental, please wait while your call is being transferred.
All right, if someone picks up, I'm going to disconnect this immediately so I can finish this appointment or this call.
All of our staff is busy helping others.
Okay, so no one picked up. It's probably because they're busy at the clinic. They do stay very busy there. But it's been in 1 minute 40 seconds, which means it's going to probably be routed to another call center.
If you are inquiring about the
Or not.
vaccine, please stay on the line and someone
Hi there. Who's watching? Drop a comment. Just in case you just tuned in, I'm basically doing a live demonstration about the dysfunctional Veterans Affairs, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs menu. I'm on hold right now, and this broadcast will be disconnected if somebody answers. So far, no answer.
When you have an appointment, remember to bring all your medications so we can review them with you. Please do not arrive more than 15 minutes early for your appointment. Getting here early just adds to your waiting time.
Okay, so far it's been 2 minutes and 51 seconds. I appear to be on hold. I think I'm on hold. Typically, it's harder to get past the initial menu than this. They typically will disconnect you, and that happens on average for me about 2 times.
Community-based VA outpatient clinics are now open in several Louisiana locations, offering veterans in the area a wide variety of primary care services. The toll-free number for VA healthcare system, how may I help?